Have you ever noticed how your life can drastically change and yet certain people will still show up treating you like nothing has? It almost feels like someone's talking to your ghost or simply just not honoring your evolution because they didn't evolve themselves. Well, that mismatch isn't failure. It's actually a sign that you outgrew whatever dynamic, whatever relationship, whatever environment that was. And now it's lagging behind you. In this video, we're going to talk about why that happens, what exactly it is, why it feels so disorienting, and how to hold yourself in that really weird, really awkward gap between who you've become now and certain aspects of life that are still mirroring back the old you. And by the end of it, you'll have language for it, you'll know you're not crazy, and you'll even have a few ways to navigate this awkward space without needing to shrink back to who you were. It's the space, the pause, the breath, the contraction between inner change and outer reflection. So we can find ourselves outpacing old systems, old roles, old relationships, old environments. And here are a few ways how this can show up. You can feel gaslit by people who are still believing or even living inside of the reality that you've just quantum leaped from. People projecting onto you or painting on you like a canvas an old version of you or their old stories about who you are or your relationship to them. Or people even relating to you in a way that just simply doesn't match the integrity that you bring now to the table or the standards that you have in connection. That could be like codependency, enmeshment patterns, and so on. There's also grief that can happen when you realize that some people just simply won't be able to do that software update of being like, oh wow, this person, you, have changed a lot because they haven't changed. So again, talk about reflection. We can only see or understand outside of ourselves at the depth that we see and understand ourselves and the work that we've done on ourselves. And people who are really stuck and in stasis and attached to old identities are going to therefore see old versions of you because that's the only version of you they can relate to. And it can lead to isolation too, because at this point you know who you are, you know the work you've done. In an internal somatic level, your body kind of knows you're on the right path, you've made the progress, there's no denying it. And once you really realize that, it's almost like, wow, I'm really alone, because if you're surrounded by people who only related to the old version of you, then who knows the real you? Who knows the new you, right? Unless you've met new people or there are people who've evolved with you. Let's talk about why this happens, because there are a few reasons. People's picture of who you are is shaped by years of repetition. So if there were patterns in the past, especially if, again, someone is still living out their individual patterns in life, regardless of you, they're still going to kind of bring that version of themselves to the table that once resonated with you. Also, change disrupts dysfunctional dynamics. Familial, friendship, whatever, work dynamics, doesn't matter. Change disrupts it. So if you become more sovereign, you become more self-led, self-guided, more empowered and embodied, that really kind of disrupts any patterns of enmeshment and codependency or power dynamics. We don't realize how many of our relationships we have these sort of unspoken rules until we become conscious of those rules, and then we start to rewrite them. But it really shakes things up, and a lot of people don't want to be uncomfortable, especially when your change, even if they don't see it for what it is, they'll feel the ripple. Because they'll feel that imbalance, they'll feel you pull away a bit, they'll feel you become more sovereign, less needy for validation. And that's deeply uncomfortable, especially for the people who aren't able to see exactly for what it is. You can hold yourself in this space by anchoring deeply, relentlessly, into the version of you that you're stepping into, that you've become. Do not give back in. You can still, and this is something I'm learning to navigate as well, is there's a lot of dynamics where I notice these codependent kind of enmeshment patterns, where I know that these relationships, these people are not able to meet me where I am now. It's very clear to me. And I'm split because on one hand, I know that there's genuine care for one another. I know that they're trying to connect with me, but there's a ceiling. It may have worked in the past because I participated unconsciously in a lot of those, again, enmeshment patterns. And now as I pull away, there's all this extra space and I'm like, Now you have to meet me all the way here. You have to meet me in true conscious connection, true, like a level of embodiment, which for a lot of people requires a complete and utter ego reckoning, ego death. And something that I think everyone on this channel has some experience with. A lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people aren't doing that, especially not by choice. Most humans, our psyche is just not wired to be like, yep, let's just, actually, maybe I do that. I might actually do that. Anyway, that's besides the point. I digress. There are relationships where it's just kind of difficult because I'm like, I do love you. I know you care about me, but I just don't feel like there's really any common ground to stand on anymore. And I know that in order for us to connect, I have to contort myself, or shrink myself is probably a better way to say it. I gotta go back into a little container where you can relate to me, because it's not gonna happen the other way around. Because a lot of these cases, people aren't ready to hear that stuff. People aren't ready for that change. And they're not ready to have that mirrored back to them. But then at the same time, a lot of these relationships aren't outright toxic. Relationships that were very close and near and dear to my heart. So that's a challenge that I'm navigating, where I'm like, I don't feel seen or met in this relationship at all. And I don't want to hurt this person's feeling either. And I do care for them, of course. But where's the line? Because I'm not who I was. And they haven't changed that much in a way that at least has caught up to my pace. It showed up in my family, it showed up with friendships, it's showing up everywhere in my life. I'm learning how to hold those dynamics without dropping them, but also without leaning so much into them that I'm betraying myself, that I'm abandoning myself and who I've become. I'm honoring who I am. I'm honoring my needs that are much more, rooted in sovereignty and self-respect and embodiment. I'm not gonna just cut them off or straight up say, I've outpaced you, I don't know. But I think before you enter those spaces or communicate with certain people, you have to come back into your center, look in the mirror, remind yourself of who you are and who you've become. Of course, always, and I will always speak to this or advocate for this, having passion projects or things that you do that mirror your growth. Have your life mirror, certain parts of your life continuously mirror back who you are and where you are. The YouTube channel for me is the biggest thing for that. And then stop overperforming or shrinking yourself. Just let there be awkward silences. You don't need to rush to respond to certain people. You don't, just because someone reaches out with urgency because they feel you becoming a little more independent and not searching so much for them and that connection, the old connection, let that kind of be a little uncomfortable. You don't have to define it. You don't have to say anything. You can just pull back a little bit to take more space for yourself without that being more than that. It might be a little uncomfortable at first because probably it's going to be uncomfortable for other people too, but just allow for that discomfort for a bit, because you're at a fork in the road. You're either going to have to shift or you're going to have to shrink yourself and choose misalignment. Allow the dynamic to shift, and if people are not going to be able to meet you in a new way of relating to you after things have clearly shifted, then they're going to fall away, and that's what needs to happen. And also decide where your energy is worth going, because sometimes you'll notice certain people and places are just simply going to be outright draining. And if that becomes a clear thing, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, after talking to that person, I can't do it anymore. They really genuinely just are not going to meet me. I see this dynamic for what it is. You are allowed to draw that line. You are allowed to draw that line. You're not a bad person. It doesn't need to be blow up toxic fight in order for you to realize this is not aligned anymore and that you have outgrown that dynamic. Period. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need to do anything. Honor your growth, honor where you are and who you've become, and the people who are meant to rise with you or align with you later on are going to. So I think also I get the feeling of having empathy and caring and not wanting to hurt people or feel like you're better than other people, because that's not what it's about. But at the end of the day, not everyone is growing at the same pace as you. Not everyone is going in the same direction as you. And that's just a reality. And it's not personal. It's really not personal. So just remembering that even if people take it personal, you can't control other people's perception or reactions, but you're allowed to do what you need to do that's best for you and that's going to honor your evolution. And it's completely fair to be honest about who is expansive for you and who fills up your cup and like makes you feel like you're being better, you're growing, you're evolving, you're moving in the right direction, and who's pulling you back into old survival patterns. Let it be clear and be honest with yourself about what needs to go, or at least what do I need to have stronger boundaries around. My question for you today is, who in your life is still asking for you to show up as an old version of you or relate to them in a way that just simply doesn't serve you anymore? And what do you feel in your body when that happens? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss more content like this. Also, check out my prompts for the week. I'll be dropping them in the comments below either today or tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And I think that's all I got for you tonight. I'm gonna go to sleep. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon.